welcome to this evening's workshop that we seem to have a lovely sunny evening for, coming in through the lovely windows here in the assembly room at the Exchange. So today's poetry workshop is all about exploring the concept of home and different experiences of home. And I'm going to let Mary tell you a little bit about sort of the idea of where this workshop has come from and how it links to the ongoing exhibition downstairs as well.
Hi, please do join us, do come in. Hi everyone, I'm Mary. I'm a lecturer at the University of Birmingham. And just first of all, briefly to please come in, come in. First of all, just to give some context to our research and kind of, what today is. So we've been working with a local youth homeless charity called St Basil's over the past 10 years. And Grace and I are actually sports psychology researchers, so you may kind of be thinking, how do those two link together? So let me tell you. So typically in sports psychology, we work with athletes who are competing at that really top elite level, and we help them to develop skills and strategies and techniques to be able to really perform mentally at that level and under pressure. Hi, do come in. We help those athletes to develop and refine those skills. And 10 years ago, we started working with St Basil's to see, okay, some of these techniques that these athletes use, actually, these are techniques that are useful for everyone, including young people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. So over the past 10 years, we've worked collaboratively with St Basil's to deliver a sports psychology intervention called My Strengths Training for Life. And if you're interested to find out any more about that, you've got our emails and Twitter on the slide, but we've also got our website, which is sprintproject.org, if you're interested in finding out more.
And that is coming up on a slide in last time.
It's like we planned it. As part of our research with St Basil's, we work very closely with the young people and staff there. And I think something that's so brilliant about St Basil's is that they really take a strengths-based approach to working with young people, really recognising the skills and the strengths that they have. And that kind of tied into this idea in this exhibition, which Grace will talk a little bit more about in terms of understanding what home means to different people. I think sometimes there might be some kind of stereotypical ideas, but part of today is kind of exploring what that means to different people. I think that's everything from me, so I'll pass back over to you.
So you may or may not be aware that down in the basement of the Exchange, there's an exhibition on called A Place to Call Home. And this is composed of 7 different research projects from across the University of Birmingham, working with different community partners on topics that range across different things to do with home. So, for example, homelessness, displaced persons, and adult health and social care as well. And as Mary has described so beautifully already, our project is the MST for Life project, which fits into that. The idea is to really challenge some of those negative stereotypes that society's created around experiences of home that don't fit within those norms. And that's kind of what we're hoping to explore that a little and kind of just give you an insight into some of those different experiences of home as well throughout the workshop. St Basil's have been, as Mary said, a key partner for us throughout the last 10 years, and particularly in this exhibition as well and these workshops. And so I'm actually delighted to hand over to you in a minute to Beth, who will be joining us and leading the rest of the workshop, because Mary and I are definitely not experts in poetry by any stretch. And so Beth will sort of introduce herself, but she runs a poetry workshop company called Been There, Done That, and has also benefited from some of the support from St Basil's. So I guess over to you, Beth, whenever you're ready.
So when I was 16, I actually lived in St Basil's hostels. And I've always wrote poetry since I was younger, and it's always helped me with so many different things throughout the time. And I used to perform it to some of the support workers there, and then I got to perform at the rep, do lots of things through them, and having them believe in me helped me further along in life. I worked for them eventually in my late 20s, but bubbling under the surface for many years, I had an alcohol addiction. And it was 3.5 years ago when I stopped functioning altogether. I was suicidal, and social services were pretty much coming for my daughter, and I hit an absolute rock bottom. But my boss, Julia, who actually worked for St Basil's, still, even as a 30-year-old woman, showed me compassion and love, and explaining how, even though it's been 16 plus years since I lived in them hostels, St Basil's has always had a feeling of home for me, because they embraced me when I didn't embrace myself. Since I now live in Bridgnorth, and that's where I've come from today, but also Birmingham will always be home to me, so I've got some poems explaining that. Personally, I had to move away from everything that I knew. I lived in an area called Chelmsley Wood, and there's a lot of addiction in areas like that. I've published this book, and I'll talk about it a little bit more, but it talks about the social dynamics of areas and how, you know, some places are almost designed to keep people entrenched in that lifestyle. So I live in Bridgnorth now, but it can have its pros and cons as well, because posh people who look down on people can just be worse than the salt of the earth type of people. So I keep my links to Birmingham and Wolverhampton and stuff like that. On the way here, I managed to leave my phone in the taxi. Typical thing I do, my bullet points. But do you know what? I'm just going to speak from the heart. I don't really do PowerPoints and things like that, because I think it takes, for me, when I do it, a lot of people need to work that way. But for me, it takes the passion out of it, so I'd just like to talk about them things. So my dad has actually set up a school in Willenhall. It's a special educational needs school. And something that all the kids have in common is their basic needs are not being met at home. So if we go back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs thing, how can we expect kids to do English and maths and excel at these things when they haven't got love, or their clothes are ripped, their parents don't care about them, and actually they're just a meal ticket? Because if you can get a label for a young child, that's going to equal more benefits in some cases. And the same can apply with the social service system. Once kids reach a certain age and they're not of value anymore, it's like they're disposable. So you don't have to be that child's parent or anything like that. You could just be a key person. If I didn't have them key people who believed in me at St Basil's, maybe I wouldn't have gone on to do some of these things. So I'm going to read some of the poems and I'll come round and I'll help you if anyone's stuck. But I was just saying earlier, maybe the reason why everybody who might have signed up to come here hasn't necessarily come is because the word poetry scares people. When I go into schools, I don't call it poetry. I have rap battles with the kids. I Eminem them, and they slag Eminem, which annoys me, and they call him old. They didn't know who Tom Hardy was the other day. I was just going to get up and walk out, quit there and then. But yeah, so it's changing the dynamics of it. Everyone fixates on it having to rhyme, having to be perfect. I've wrote hundreds of poems over the years. I write whatever's in my head. I write it, leave it, and I don't go back to it. Because if I start messing about with it, then I'm going to unpick all of the expression and emotion out of it and concentrate on the grammar and the other things. In this book, I swear a lot and talk about addiction, and I don't sugarcoat things, but I'm not like slagging Russell Brand off now. I think he's a nice guy, but his book that he come out with has got so many big words in that the average person who had addiction is not going to know what them words mean. So if they're having to go to a dictionary every 5 minutes and read up what that word means, it's going to make them feel stupid. And if they've already low in self-worth, I thought I just want to make my book relatable. And say the things that people might be afraid to say but are thinking, and go back and forward. So in the book, there's chapters about addiction. It's actually called Through Isabella's Eyes. So I have an 11-year-old daughter now, and it talks about how when I got sober, the world through her eyes changed. And it also talks about how I needed that rock bottom to actually mend, and I don't regret them things. So when I was thinking about home and what home means to me, well, home's been lots of things. At one point, home was a bottle of vodka, and that was a safety net and a hug, and I loved it very much. But then that very thing started destroying me, and then my home become a place of domestic violence, and I didn't want to go home, and I didn't want to do them things. My home now with my daughter is a haven. I've turned it into a hippie sanctuary, and I have fires, and I've got loads of hippie stuff everywhere, and I feel safe there. And my addiction got worse when my nan died, because she died after my daughter was born, and my nan's face was home to me. And I thought, to help you think of all the definitions of home, people are going to fixate on the typical, image of it. And actually, whatever your passion is, poetry's been home to me, because throughout everything, my darkest days, even in active addiction, I have been very lucky that I've had something that I can turn to, and not everybody's got that. And I've wrote so many things over the years. Sometimes it makes me sad when I read back to how I felt at that time. But now I've got a level of empathy for that version of me, because that was the only way I could survive. It was like the drink that nearly killed me in the end saved me from the reality of my first home. So it served its purpose for a while, but then when it stopped serving its purpose, it turned round and attacked me. So I thought I'll share a couple of poems with you, try and inspire you. And but you don't have to share your poems with anyone if it's personal to you. But writing this book for me has been self-healing. I said earlier, it's not about getting loads of sales, even if it just helps one person to feel like listened to or relate and don't feel alone. So I go to AA meetings, but I don't do it religiously, because I don't like the fact that you have to turn around and say, hi, my name's Beth and I'm an alcoholic, because I'm a lot more than just an alcoholic. I'm a mother, I've got so much about me. I haven't drank for 3.5 years. I know I'm an alcoholic, and I know if I drank again, that's going to take me to a dark place. Do I need to continuously label myself as that to have permission to speak in a room? I don't think that's right. So I've met some great people there, and I'll dip in and out and meet them. But I'm not going to keep going to a meeting every week where I have to label myself as something that I'm not anymore. But saying that, them rooms are home to lots of people, and they've saved lots of people too. So I'm not saying that they're bad. Me personally, I'll go to them, but I kind of dip my toes in lots of different things. We're actually looking, me and my friends, into going on some like spiritual retreats and stuff, and just sound healing and all that kind of stuff. I went to Portugal recently, and it's the second time I've been abroad since I've been sober, and I feel like it's the first time I'm seeing things again, like the beauty in the world, because when I was in addiction, everything was dark, and I have these wow moments all the time, and I just think whatever anyone's going through, everyone's got their personal things to them. When people think about addiction, they say, oh, it's got to be childhood trauma. But one person's trauma can be completely different to another person's. It doesn't mean you're winning. Sometimes it can become a bit of an award thing, who's got the most trauma. But if it's affected you, then that's it. I'm going to read a couple of poems now, because I don't want to waffle on, because I ain't got my bullet points, because I haven't got the phone. Taxi driver's got it. Everyone's been calling him. So I'm going to start off with a poem that's in this book. So this book has got poems, but it's also got chapters as well. But I put relatable poems into it that people can connect with. It also talks about cross addiction, because I'll always be an addict. I get withdrawal symptoms when my shampoo bottle's halfway down. So I've got loads of face creams and all that stuff, but I just laugh at it now. Is loads of pairs of trainers and shampoo bottles going to kill me? No. Was a bottle of vodka? Yeah. So that's how I justify having lots of these things. This is called What is Love? The two most overused words are I love you and I'm sorry. Those words go hand in hand but are misused to bring confusion to the abused. The actions of another can be in fact anything but those 3 words. They seem to erase heartache though, when they are heard, which is crazy because it's the one saying those words that caused you the hurt in the first place. But it's like you're a vampire who's tried your first bite, had your first blood taste. So you go back for more. But when the "sorry, I love you" hits you in the core, you forget why you were sad, hurt, angry or upset. But never forget your worth, your self-respect. And while you're building up another yourself, you forget. I know now love is not something you say, it's the things that you do. But it's a learning curve in this world that feels new. Love is little moments that don't need words or sound. It's picking up broken people from the ground, but not reminding them that they was once broken, because love doesn't like those words being spoken. It's the most beautiful thing in the world, but it can crush you in the wrong hands. And you feel as though you're the only one who feels that way and no one understands. But that's not love. It's toxic infatuation that thrives on fights and intoxication to survive. And when it's quiet, it's those fights you crave. So you thrive on the thought of making up. But what goes up must come down. And you are the butt of their jokes and their juggling clown. That's not love. Love is patient, love is calm, and it is kind. And it can be hard to leave the past behind. But as you are evolving and changing, so should your misconceptions about hurt and rejections. Because what will be, and love finds its way back through complications. If only we learnt the art of communication. I'm your feather to fly, not your anchor to sink. And you are hers or his. That's what love is. Thank you for that poem. I always get awkward. I know. So I mentioned about my nan. I'm going to read that one next, but actually I'm going to read one now, and it's called I Go for Coffee All on My Own, because it's when I actually felt like a grown-up at like 32. I had a child and a house and all that, but like it was the coffee that really made me realise. So it's here. I go for coffee all on my own. With my coffee and my thoughts, I do not feel alone. I feel less lonely on my own than I ever have before. And I crave for the company of others no longer, no more. Not that I don't like other humans, because I do, bar the odd few. It's just that I sit here dreaming and planning and creating, not hoping for change, dreading or shaking. Every day I try to do one positive thing for my mind, even if it's choosing to be kind, instead of putting myself down. So I sit and I think how I've turned life around. I would never have sat in coffee shops alone and content. And now coffee, and dare I say it, cake, feel heaven sent. Now though I just swim a little longer and walk a little faster. It was a coffee and a cake, not a cracked open bottle disaster. I can look in the mirror and acknowledge a fighter with spirit. My cups are half full, there's just something different in it. I go for coffee shops, humble daydreaming on my own. I sit here with 1,000 dreams, just me, but not alone. Okay. Right, I'm going to read the one about my nan now, and then I'll read 2 more, and then I'll come round and help you, because I don't. Sometimes when you're getting kind of redder, you like zone out. So, Nanny Wim. How did you always get your roasters fluffy but crispy? I've tried all kinds of methods, Nan. I hope that you're not lonely and you don't miss me. Well, of course I miss you, but I'll see you when the time is right. And no one ever made a ham sandwich like you. It was like you sprinkled on fairy light. Sometimes I put a whole bottle of comfort in the washing machine, and you still visit me in my dreams. I do it to make it smell like yours. You are always doing house chores, and I do not wake up sad like I used to anymore. Maybe that's why I sleep so much, hoping to see your face once more. And you felt like home, and your skin was soft, and I loved your hair like candy floss. Birthdays and Christmases passed by, and I wish I could hold your hands and feel your forehead kiss. I will though, I know, and I can't grieve forever or will not live. I know now that sober I've got so much more to give, and I hope it didn't make you sad as you saw me stumble. I can almost taste your apple crumble. And I feel all funny still, after all these years when I pass your home. I still know off by heart your house phone. I'm going to be honest, I was a little lost when you left for a while. I'm okay now, though. I found my smile. And I know that you were old and in the end you was in pain. And you used to hate it when people said your whole name. To us, though, you were Nanny Win, our very own queen. Next time you visit, please bring me roasters in my dream. And then I'm going to read... I'll read Bench in Birmingham because you're all Brummies, so you're going to get it. Well, I'm just presuming that. I don't know if you're all Brummies. So I'll have a look for this. If I had my phone, it would have been right in front of me. Well, what I'll do instead is I'm going to read the cost of living crisis, actually, because people can relate to what people are going through, and then the last poem which in the book, which is Through Isabella's Eyes, and then I can come round and show you the other ones if you need any more inspiration, because I don't want to keep just reading at you. I can't stop thinking about the old, who are going to freeze from the cold, because they cannot afford to top up their meter, and when they do, it gets eaten up by the electric heater. So they sit there with blankets and don't want to make a fuss or moan, but the cold goes straight through to their bone. But forget the frail. They named it the cost of living crisis, so we must prevail. What about the newborn babies who need heat? So to warm them, the mother simply doesn't eat. Then she has no energy for the night feeds. She's new to this, but has to put first the baby's needs. But forget the frail. They named it the cost of living crisis, so we must prevail. Then there are the children already in poverty, showering less, gold dust to their bully, uniform covered in the day's stains, smelly tramp to add to the names. Yet the parents are struggling to do the weekly shop because they up the prices on the lot. But forget the frail. They named it the cost of living crisis, so we must prevail. Just got over the COVID lockdowns and isolation trauma there. Those CEOs' pockets are bulging, so they don't care. Sorry. Seeing advice to have a 4-minute shower max. You work an extra day to cover the cost, and then up pipes council tax. But forget the frail. They named it the cost of living crisis, so we must prevail. Food banks cannot keep up with the demands. Mothers contemplating OnlyFans to be seen by the many luring eyes. Wonder if them at the top even believe their own lies, but forget the frail. They named it the cost of living crisis, so we must prevail. 2022 people getting on okay, pushed into poverty. By the way, we are up in mortgage rates from 2003. I cannot stop thinking about the old with freezing bones sitting in the cold, or babies with hungry mothers who gets its milks from those human udders, or the child in poverty who gets bullied at school. My heart, it bleeds for you all, but forget the frail. They named it the cost of living crisis, so we must prevail. And then this last one hits my heart a little bit. It's called Through Isabella's Eyes. She does not have to stand at my funeral, wondering why she wasn't enough, having to face the world without Mummy's love. This place is already far too tough. And she doesn't have to hide if she's been bullied, because she's scared of how I'll react. Mummy's being irrational again, heading to school with an axe, and she doesn't have to watch me bottle watch when she just wants to chill, and she doesn't have to see me turning grey as the poison's making me ill. She does not have to live in chaos with new drama every week, or do crazy things because it's attention that she seeks, and she doesn't have to worry anymore that Mummy's world is upside down, because she sees I'm stable now with my feet firmly on the ground. And she doesn't have to act like a child. No, she doesn't have to act like an adult while she is just a child. Mummy's having a duvet day again. I'm sure when she arises the world will get wild. And she doesn't have to worry. She hasn't got that weight of a mum who wakes up craving and it's only 8:30. What she does get is consistency, accountability, sustainability and stability, the things that a child needs the most. Not a vessel to the vodka, and Mummy is the host. She gets cuddles. She's always had them, but these mean so much more. Mummy's not craving cuddles because her head is feeling sore. And there is no question the love's always been there because she's always been my light. It's just I was battling an internal fight. She gets a home full of laughter, not disaster, and clothes that smell like softener, floors far less sticky. A man in my life who would never in a million years ever hit me. She has a home life, school life routine, and a mother who finds positive solutions to young girls being mean. Affirmations to build confidence and advice that makes more sense than smash her in the face, Belle, and go and push her up the fence. Don't get me wrong, even my sober mind says defend yourself and don't take any shit. But I think now before it all spits out like a dragon's flame fire pit. She has her friend round, we bake cookies, but I give her her own space. Mummy doesn't fall to sleep with last night's makeup on her face. We are a team, living only what we could describe as a dream, that I never knew was possible. It came as a pleasant surprise, that as I got well, so did the view from Isabella's eyes. Thank you. So you can get this on Amazon and stuff now, and it's on other things. And if you go on to Google and type it in, if you want to get the book, feel free, or it's on Kindle. But I really want you to try and work on your definition of home. You've all got different life stories and different backgrounds, and just think what it means to you. I'll come round and help you with it and stuff as well. But don't be hard on yourself. Don't fixate on the grammar and them things, and just write what you feel inside. And you know what? If you don't want anyone to see it, you can rip it up and throw it in the bin. Or you can be dramatic like me and have a fire and burn it. Any excuse. But thank you anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. That was So Beth will probably wander around and help, and if you've got any questions, she'll be able to help you. From my very limited poetry experience, sometimes I find it really helpful just to write a mind map of like words that come to my mind when I think of a topic. So yeah, Beth will wander around. Mary and I are also kind of around if there's any questions about any of the sort of stuff that we introduced at the beginning in terms of the MST for Life project and the exhibition as well. So enjoy this walk. I hope everybody's had a sort of the good last 50-ish minutes in terms of chatting to Beth, maybe asking some questions, and maybe getting an idea of a start of a poem. It doesn't matter how far you've progressed with your poem, it's definitely a process, that's for sure. So I just wondered if anybody did want to share anything that they have written or started to write at all. There's no pressure at all if you don't want to.
Or I can read it for you.
Or yeah, or Beth can read it for you. If you want to read yours, yeah, go for it. Are you happy to have the microphone on? Yeah, go for it.
Right. Yeah, I know. Okay. These concrete walls, if they were to crumble, I'd surely be crushed by the 7+ floors above. If the weight of it all was to take over me, it would surely dead me. As I turn the key, I stop and think, it's already crushing me. I don't even want to go in. Can feel the tension as I wonder how this door's still standing, the amount of times it's been kicked in. The angers on the walls, holes through the doors, the constant treading on eggshells saying comes to mind as I look to the floor at the pieces of glass from the plate thrown up the wall. Teenage hormones at their finest. No space to retreat as we tread on each other's toes in this two-bed flat. All four of us with anger issues, in each other's way. The constant blocked drains, broken heating, damp, ready to decay us. Home life at the moment is an absolute chaos. And that's it.
Thank you. That really moved me.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think it was such a moving piece of poetry. So I hope it's been an experience for you. Yeah, well, that's absolutely fantastic. You've been able to do that with everybody here today. So well done. Is there anyone else that would like to share anything that they've started to write?
Remember what I said about fear? And fear being your biggest thing that holds you back? You never get these moments back, and then when you get home you think, oh, I wish I'd read it. You know? No one's going to judge anything that you do.
And who are we to judge?
Yeah. Who are we to judge?
Yeah.
Shall I read the first verse?
Yeah, go for it.
It's only 4 short lines. Walking, watching, wondering. When will I find the way to feel at home when I'm at home and feel at peace when I'm away?
That's beautiful. You only needed 4 lines.
Brilliant. It's 4 lines, but it's 4 excellent lines, so great work. I think I say I'm not the poetry expert, but yeah, it was brilliant. So again, thank you for sharing. Are you going to come up? Yeah, go for it, Ruben.
That's what we don't have enough of in the world, people encouraging each other.
Cool. Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay. Home is a place where you go to replenish your zest of life, reminding you that you're alive, your own personal zeitgeist. If I lost the key to unlock the doors of my dreams, I wouldn't know the cheers and screams or lullabies infinite. And that's it so far.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Does anybody else? There's no pressure if not, or if you'd like, Beth I know has volunteered to read them, if you would prefer that as an option. You're going to read Emily's, excellent. Have you already got a...
Emily said it's not finished. Emily's not normally shy.
I know, but I thought I'd take a break.
Yeah. So what is this place we call home? Home can sometimes feel alone. It's not always what we imagine, not always bricks or stone. It's a sense of feeling, a sense of belonging. We can all imagine Mary and Joseph searching for that inn. So what is this place we call home? Never a dull moment, never alone. Looking for that inner peace, that feeling, that safety, that warmth, the love. Want to read yours, what you've wrote so far?
I've only written
Well, it doesn't matter, go on.
I've just written, what is home to me? Home to me is inner peace. I'm yet to find my home. The lights are on, but no one is home.
Aww. Cool. Thank you both of you for sharing your poems as well. I guess now is a bit of an opportunity just for 5 minutes if anyone had any questions that they wanted to ask either myself, Mary or Beth. So I don't know if you want to join me at the front. Oh yeah, I can share my poem if you'd like me to share my poem. That's fine. Mary was too busy talking. Very systematic approach, Mary. Okay, I haven't titled my poem, I didn't get that far. Home is so strange, so many places, it's such a range. Unless you're society, then it's all the same. It should be mum and dad, 2 children and the dog. A white picket fence and bright red bricks. If you open the gate and take a peek, what you might see is far from neat. Behind the smile, behind the mask, might not be the happy family you thought would last. It might be fear as he screams in your ear, beholden by the power, you are stuck in their tower. The bricks are a trap that keep holding you back. Home is more than the bricks. It's all about who helps you. It's who makes you laugh and fills your heart, who helps you stand up tall and doesn't keep you apart from those you love. Home is within you and you can carry it wherever. It's a feeling, it's so strange, and there really is a range. That was really cool. Thank you. But yeah, so does anyone have any questions for Mary, Beth, or I, either about poetry or more broadly about kind of the work that we've been doing here at the Exchange, or the work that we've done with St Basil's combining sort of sports psychology to help young people experiencing homelessness? And if not, that's also absolutely fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a question. So, how do you bring doing sport? You go on your own personal journey from, let's say, if you are doing boxing ring to like roundabout and going out again. Like, how would you bring that to someone who has never experienced that?
Thank you. Good question. Do you mean in terms of someone who like hasn't done sport or doesn't know about sports psychology, or?
Yeah, like I think there's a difference between like going through a journey yourself and having those lessons, and then like sort of see if it's someone who hasn't done that.
Yeah.
Like how would you sort of manage it sort of?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. So in terms of someone who hasn't, had that journey and developed their own kind of skills themselves and that kind of thing. So one of the things we're quite passionate about is that we don't kind of see ourselves as teachers. We more kind of see ourselves as, the kind of posher word, if you like, facilitators. I think we were talking a little bit about this earlier in terms of like the power balance and the power dynamic. So when we're working with people, particularly young people, I guess one of our first steps is to recognise the skills and strengths that they already have. Because although they might not have had, experiences doing a particular sport or something like that, they are going to have experienced something in their life where they have developed some skills in some way. And sometimes it's easy for them to be able to identify that, like, oh yeah, actually I'm a really good problem solver. Whereas other times it can take a little bit more probing, a little bit more conversation and getting to know each other to help them reflect on those skills that they do already have, but perhaps they just didn't have as much awareness of those skills. So I guess one of our jobs in our research is to try and help people recognise the skills and strengths that they already have, and also how they can then apply those skills into other settings as well. So it may be they've developed skills in sport, but it can then help them in school or an apprenticeship or something similar. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, sure. And how can so would you then teach? Well, I guess not teach.
Yeah, I know.
Would you then, I guess, let them know that per se by their own volunteered information, or then would you do exercises to get them to reveal that to you or something?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of the exercises we do, so to speak, so although we're kind of from a sport background, so to speak, our programs that we've done, particularly with St Basil's, haven't necessarily been explicitly physical activity or sport based. It's been more doing different activities that we then reflect on as a group in terms of, okay, what skills did you do when you were doing that activity? So I can give you an example, and it's going to sound very random. So one of the activities that we did was something called the Air Vehicle Challenge, where we bring along lots of materials, so things like paper plates, straws, grapes, and the challenge of the activity is to create a vehicle that can be powered along by a hairdryer. And the goal of it is to try and get the vehicle to move as far as possible, powered by a hairdryer. And the young people would work in groups to do this. And so initially, and actually sometimes some of the looks and kind of comments that we got were like, how on earth does this relate to anything? Which, yeah, you might say is a fair question. But how we tended to kind of run things was, we'll introduce an activity, but then the really important part is kind of reflecting on that at the end in terms of, okay, initially this might have seemed a bit odd, but can you think about any skills that you developed during this activity, or any skills or strengths that you noticed in other people when you were doing this activity? And through having that conversation at the end, it helps think, okay, actually, I was quite a good problem solver when, we tested it and it didn't go very far, then we made some modifications. Or, oh, that person was really good at listening to my opinion. And it starts to, naturally through those conversations, help to identify some of these skills and strengths. So, yeah, throughout our program, we would do lots of different activities that are quite hands-on and quite fun and interactive. But, yeah, but reflecting on it afterwards was the key part.
I remember that I had to do something like making a tallest tower out of like
giraffes
and spaghetti.
Yeah,
Sort of thing. Yeah, that's
spaghetti tower. Yeah.
I guess poetry can be really self-reflective in that way as well. So then, how does poetry then sort of allow those skills to then under the surface?
Yeah, good question. And I guess I'll pass over to Beth as well for some of it. But I think one of the things about poetry, from my perspective, is the kind of creative aspect of it. And actually, just by coming here today, you've all kind of committed to this block of time and allowing yourself that time to be creative. And I think a lot of the time in life, we're kind of going from one thing to the next and the next, and we might forget sometimes, or at least me, forget to have this time for some of these more creative activities. So actually, I think there's skills in, first of all, allowing yourself the time to be creative, but also then the kind of creativity as a skill in itself. But Beth, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
It's free therapy for a start. I've turned to it through my darkest times, and at one point I thought I needed to be in pain to write my best writing, but actually I've wrote more beautiful and better stuff since I've been in recovery. But I think we are all our own worst enemy, and I say to the kids in the school, someone could say to you 100 positive things and one bad thing, and you'll fixate on that bad thing, and we all do that. And I used to go into a room and want everybody in that room to like me, and the one person in that room who wouldn't like me, I'd put my time, energy and focus on trying to get them to like me. And now I just think, well, I don't really like them, so let's just move on and move forward from it. So you can just write these things, turn to it. You don't need to show anyone, you can show someone. The fact that some of you have got up and read it, the first thing that you did was, Emily said, this isn't quite finished. You said, oh, it's just a little, sorry, I don't mean to just go you. You said it's just little, but it was actually really powerful. Your poem nearly moved me to tears, especially after the conversation that we had. You know, you've all done beautiful things, but the first thing you did was put yourself down before you even did it. Because you know what that is? That's a self-defense mechanism. I learnt this from Eminem, and I've literally used it all my life. If I put myself down first, nobody else can put me down. But then it travelled through to compliments. So someone would be like, I like your top. I'd be like, oh, thanks, I've looked shit the rest of the week, but yeah, I appreciate it. And then I'm not just putting myself down for no reason. We never actually go, you know what, I'm proud of myself, I've done this. And I never take time to actually sit there and think, I've done something I've wanted to do my whole life, and I still do this now. Do you know the first thing I did? Honestly, when I come in this room and there wasn't that many people here, straight away you think, oh, no one could be bothered to come, oh, this is going to be a failure or whatever. When I've sat and spoke to you, I thought, the right people have come who needed it, and that's all that matters. And I said to you earlier, you know what, even if one person buys my book and it helps them, then it's done its job, isn't it? It's not about sales or something. You needed to come, everyone needed to come for their own reasons. And there could have been loads of people that just come for the crack of it, and it wouldn't have meant anything to them. but the people that are here are who needed to be here. So you just have to think that about things, you know. Even I lost my phone, and then this lovely taxi man, he's picked me up, a separate taxi man, got speaking to him. He's like a big stocky man. He said all he's ever wanted to do is work in a school, and I thought, he'll be great. And I got talking to him, I've got his number, I'm going to pass it on to my dad. And then that interaction could possibly him working in school. So paths aligned. So even if you think that about bad things that happen, right, they feel really shit at the time. But like, my darkest days led me to my lightest ones. So now, even when shit things are happening, I just kind of go, oh, whatever, you know. So if you can get that kind of way of thinking, it's almost like you've got a baseball bat in your hand and you're just bouncing it off, like, oh, what else you got for me? I just laugh now at some of the things. I vacuumed at water once when I was drinking. That was my mentality. There was a big puddle of water. I thought, oh, I know what I'll do, I'll vacuum it up. I laugh at him now. I'm like, great idea. But you got to laugh at some of your downfalls as well, and just think, if you can't laugh at yourself, right, not in a derogatory way, like, because that's no good either, but if you can't take yourself a little bit, then take yourself too seriously. You're going to get offended. Everyone's offended by everything these days. You can't say anything without offending someone, do you know what I mean? But that gets no one anywhere. I think I've gone off track. But, yeah, stop being offended, everyone, not you. Not you. That's a different run. Oh, spat all over myself just to add.
No, it's fine. I'm just mindful of time. So Grace and I will be around for a little bit afterwards. So if you did still have a question, we're more than happy to chat. But equally, I don't want to keep you all here beyond too long past the time that we said. And yeah, just before we go, we just wanted to signpost you to these different resources. Obviously, today we've covered some potentially sensitive topics. Sometimes we can feel absolutely fine and then realise later, actually, perhaps that struck a bit of a nerve. So just in case you do need it, there are some information of different sources of support on the slide. So St Basil's, we've spoken about quite a lot. Mine's the mental health charity, and also Crisis in terms of homelessness as well. I think that's it.
And I'm going to do a book plug.
And I think we were just going to finish off with Julia as well. But yeah, we do have the QR code for Beth's book as well. So if you have a phone, you can scan that and it'll take you to the link to the Amazon page as well. And yeah, I guess from us, we both wanted to say a huge thank you to Beth for coming along today. So can we just give a round of applause? I think it's really been fantastic. And again, thank you to those of you who have kind of shared and been really open with this evening. It's been brilliant. And yeah, I think we're finishing with Julia.
Thank you to Grace and Mary for organising this event. It's been really valuable. Thank you very much. I'm Julia. I work at the Exchange, and we do these sorts of events all the time. So we've got a very short evaluation slip. So if you could fill that in, it's really helpful for us, because then we know that if we're successful, we can do more of the same. So thank you very much. And when you leave, it's not the same way you came in.
Learned the hard way.
So you came in through the north entrance, and the way out is through the south entrance. So still go downstairs to the cafe, just in the direction. And then you just follow the path round to the right, it takes you back to City and stuff.
I was just thinking this venue could be good for a book launch, actually.
Yeah.
To be fair, I haven't done my book launch yet, and I'm just waiting to do it. But at the book launch, you might be interested to hear this. I want to do it as a networking event, but I also want to do it as a chance for people to showcase their work. So it's not just about my book, but it's celebrating everyone's talent, singers, poems, whatever. So you can add me on Facebook and keep up to date with that. You've got the thing from a book, but I promise you, when I get it set, you can contact me, and then I think that's what will make the event. Everybody else's talent. It's not just about me going, oh, look, I've done a book, because I think everyone should showcase what they're doing and sing and stuff, I think it would be nice. So if I do it here, it's local as well. It's easy for everyone to get to. Also, quickly as well, you can go on to something called All Poetry, where you can get constructive criticism for your poetry. I've got like a secret page that no one's knew with all my dark stuff on there, kind of thing, right? Which makes me sad if I read it now, but it's good for no one who knows you to hear your stuff, and you can enter competitions and different things. I can also tell you the publisher that I went through for mine, if we meet up again at another time, and all that stuff. My name's Beth Abbott, so if you just add me on Facebook, then we can connect like that. It's the easiest way. I never use LinkedIn. I would give you my phone number, but it's pointless because the taxi driver's going to answer the phone and wonder why you're calling me. So, you can have my number, actually, because I am going to get it off you.
It's on your website, isn't
There
it?
you
Which
go.
the link to...
Up here as well as Beth.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. So today's event was a poetry workshop which was hosted at the Exchange building, and this is part of the A Place to Call Home exhibition. Today's poetry workshop was led by Beth Abbott, who's a poet, author and owner of Been There, Done That company. And yeah, today's event was an opportunity for people to write their own poetry and have that space to be creative and to think about really what home means to them.
Thinking about how this poetry event links back to the Sprint project is a really interesting point to consider. They perhaps seem like quite different topics in terms of that literature and then sports psychology. But actually, for people to sit down and concentrate, that's a really key skill that athletes use all the time. And also those skills, those performance skills when people stand up at the front to read their poetry as well, in terms of potentially some of that positive self-talk, maybe a little bit of imagery, some deep breath work to channel those nerves. So even though the two concepts feel like quite different, there's definitely lots of links between them.